So, every new year, the guys over at Hello Games release multiple major No Man's Sky updates which add a wide variety of features as well as update existing features, which in turn means the beginner guides I've done previously become outdated. So I thought I'd do an updated guide on some beginner tips you should know when you're starting out in the game in 2023. Make sure you stick around to the end so you don't miss anything important, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get stuck in. So, first up, let's talk about resources. Sure, there are endless amounts of resources in No Man's Sky. Some of them are vastly more valuable than others, and some of them are incredibly rare, whereas some of them are incredibly common. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the most essential resources you need to keep you alive, moving, and allowing you to craft some of the basic components which you'll need in the early game. You want to make sure that you stock up on each of these resources, and the good thing is they're all very common, so you won't have to wander far to get a good chunk of them in the first place. And the first essential resource is oxygen. This can be found on any planet by either seeing red glowing plants or from hazardous plants, and it is essential for your life support, along with crafting many components and refining into more complex resources the further you get into the game. Next up is sodium, and again you can find this on any planet by looking for the orange glowing plants. If you do go into photo mode and zoom out, you can actually see sodium and oxygen plants in the near vicinity very easily, which is a little tip in itself right there. Anyway, sodium is used for hazard protection along with recharging shields, and once again, it can be used as an ingredient for crafting and refining many components and more complex resources. Dihydrogen is next, and once again you can find these blue crystals on almost any planet, and it is used primarily for crafting fuel for your starships and frigates. Once again, it can also be used as an ingredient when crafting various resources, and it can be also used for refining into many other complex resources as well. Moving on to carbon, now you can get this from any plants on almost any planet, and it is used a lot for fueling things. It will fuel your portable and jetpack refiners, and it is also needed as an ingredient for crafting so many components, especially when building a wooden base. Again, it is also used for refining into various more complex resources, and you can also use it in cooking a wide variety of ingredients. You'll find that you're going to use a lot of Ferrite Dust in the early game for crafting components and also fixing things on your starship, so it's useful to get a good chunk of this earlier on in your inventory. And again, it can be found on almost any planet, and if you want to rapidly get a stack of these, hop into your starship once it's fixed up and shoot at the rocks on the ground. You'll have a few thousand units of Ferrite Dust in no time at all. And the final essential resource you want to get is Trillium, and you can gather this by shooting asteroids in space. It is primarily used for fueling your starship's pulse engine, allowing you to travel through systems far quicker. And it is also widely used in freighter-related base building, as well as an ingredient for crafting components and refining into more complex and valuable resources. So, as I mentioned refining a lot just then, it only makes sense now to talk about the portable refiner. Now you will get this fairly early on in the game, and you'll use it initially to refine resources to fix components, craft other components, and you'll also use it for base building. You can of course experiment by putting various resources into this and seeing what's going to come out the other end, but you can also refine some junk items like runaway mold into nanites whenever you come across it. And again, you can also refine other items into yet even more nanites like pugnium, buried technology, and larval cores, so just spend some time sticking stuff in a portable refiner just to see what happens. So you'll find a lot in the early game is going to involve managing items within your inventory because it's only fairly small, so this next tip will involve expanding your Exosuit's inventory. So doing this is absolutely essential to carrying more resources and improving your shields, hazard protection and movement modules for your Exosuit. You can expand your inventory at a cost twice in each new system you visit. The first expansion slot you can find is located on regular space stations on the left hand side as you fly in, near the NPC selling upgrades for your exosuit, multi-tools, exocraft and starships. The second expansion slot can be found if you summon the Anomaly and then head on to the back of it, where you can find blueprints for all sorts of weird and wonderful things like exosuit upgrades, starship upgrades, exocraft upgrades, base builder components and more. These expansion slots will cost you money, and the bigger your inventory is, the more money it's going to cost you further down the line, so you're going to need plenty of units. More on that in just a few minutes. There is good news however, you can find drop pods which after a little bit of fixing up will give you more exosuit expansion slots, but at no extra cost. And there is a really simple way to find one of these if you have an exocraft with the advanced scanner installed on it. You can then find these drop pods almost instantly. For a full description on how to do that, check out a recent short I did showing you exactly the steps you need to follow. It really is really quick. Right, let's talk about some upgrades, and first off, Hyperdrive Upgrades. Now these upgrades are essential for a number of reasons, and the first of that is you can explore all star systems with the Indian Emerald and Cadmium drives installed. Having these installed on your ship along with the emergency warp unit adjacent to them will give you an extra hyperdrive range bonus as well, and that moves me on nicely to some more S-Class hyperdrive upgrades. These upgrades are essential for you to be able to travel further in a single jump while also using less fuel as you do so. It's currently possible, if done correctly, to increase your hyperdrive range to over 2,000 light years in a single jump with these upgrades, but not only that, you could be able to do as many as 10 jumps on a single warp cell, so you can spend less time faffing around crafting hyperdrive fuel. So in summary, get as many S-Class upgrades as you're allowed for your hyperdrive and get the Indium, Emerald and Cadmium drives installed as well, so exploring that vast universe in No Man's Sky becomes infinitely more easy. And of course, all these upgrades cost nanites, so in just a few minutes I'll give you a few tips on how to get plenty of nanites and be able to buy all of these upgrades with relative ease. Now this one isn't related to hyperdrive upgrades, but I would highly suggest getting yourself the launch system recharger for your starship, because whilst you're off exploring on the planet's surface, your launch thrusters will be recharging instead of just sitting there idly, meaning in theory, depending on how long you explore for, you never need to refuel your starship ever again. Now, let's talk about your scanner. You want to fix this up as soon as you possibly can, and it is fairly easy to do so as it only requires some Ferrite Dust to fix it. And next, you want to make sure you buy as many S-Class upgrades for your scanner, and one of the main reasons for doing this is money. Lots and lots of money. In a recent update, Hello Games nerfed the values of many of the previously valuable resources, thus resulting in making money a little bit more difficult. However, they haven't nerfed the value of scanning with a bunch of S-Class upgrades on your scanner. At least yet they haven't. Having a few of these S-Class scanner upgrades, you can literally get hundreds of thousands of units per creature scan. So just visiting each planet and scanning all their creatures will get you a few million units. You can also scan all of the plant life and mineral life on every planet for even more units. So by not upgrading your scanner, you're missing out on tens of million units at the very least, and not to mention, you'll also be missing out on thousands upon thousands of nanites, and I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. So, as Hello Games have nerfed the value of many previously valuable resources, making money has changed quite a lot in the past few months. And as I just mentioned, getting S-Class scanner upgrades and scanning everything is one way of making loads of money, but what are some of the other ways? Well, there are a few, and first I'll talk about salvageable scrap and ancient bones. Collecting all of these can net you millions of units, because some of them are worth up to 2 million units a pop if you're lucky, but even if not, you're still going to net hundreds of thousands of units gathering just one of these. You can tell if a planet has either ancient bones or salvageable scrap by scanning it from space using your starship, so make sure you do that and grab as many as your inventory allow, and then head to the nearest space station and sell them on. You can also gather a few valuable resources on planets like larval cores from whispering eggs, but watch out for those pesky biological horrors. You can also gather albumin pills and gravitino balls as well, but watch out for the sentinels as soon as you pick one of these up. You can actually grow a whole bunch of these if you build a farm and make literally millions of units, and I have done a video showing you how to do just that, so go ahead and check that out later on. I'll leave a link in the description below for you. I have also done an in-depth video on money making in No Man's Sky, but the recent update made a couple of these methods redundant. However, the vast majority of them still work, so go ahead and check that out as well if you want. I'll leave a link to that video in the description for you. So, let's talk about moving around. Early on in the game, your jetpack won't get you very far, and neither will sprinting, so you want to make sure that you get yourself a few S-Class movement upgrades for your jetpack, so you can travel further in a shorter amount of time, because let's be honest, you don't want to be spending forever just running around getting to different destinations, as that would be fairly boring. You should also know about the melee boost, which allows you to jump even further in a single go. It's really simple to do, and you'll find yourself doing it all the time once you've learned how to do it. Basically, you just hit the melee button, then tap the jetpack button whilst moving forwards, and voila! You'll be flying across the planet's surface really quick in no time. Another little tip for jetpacks is you're going to get unlimited jetpack boosts when flying up a vertical surface, which is ideal for if you're stuck in a cave or your ship happens to be at the top of a mountain. You will also notice that your jetpack fuel lasts significantly longer in some storms, allowing you to travel further at great lengths just to get to a safe place. Right, so earlier in the video I mentioned scanning everything you come across for units, but you should also know that you can get yourself thousands of nanites at the same time, and for this you want to be uploading all of your discoveries in the Discoveries tab. You can upload all of your discoveries at once, and depending on how much you've scanned, this could be anywhere from 50 nanites to literally thousands of nanites, so it's definitely well worth doing. Another worthy mention is if you manage to discover all creatures on a single planet, you will get yourself yet another nanite bonus, which could range from 250 nanites to upwards of 3000 nanites. The creatures tab in the discoveries area even shows how many creatures you've got left to discover, where they can be found, and what time of day they can be found, so it really isn't that difficult. Right, let's talk about the Anomaly. There is plenty to do on here, and sticking with nanites and discoveries for the meantime, it is worth you handing over your discoveries and milestones to Iterations Helios and Ares respectively. Depending on what they're looking for, and also depending on how many discoveries and milestones you've collected since you last visited them, you could net up to a few thousand nanites here, so making sure you do that each time you visit the Anomaly. The Anomaly is also where you can unlock all of your base building parts to create your very own epic bases. This research station can be found at the back of Anomaly, along with other research stations including technology components for your starships, exocrafts, multi-tools and exosuit. You can also unlock blueprints from a variety of valuable resources, and purchasing all of these is going to cost you either nanites or buried technology components, so make sure you stock up on those and then visit the research stations and go crazy. You're also going to notice on the Anomaly that you can also unlock some more base building parts, jetpack trails, starship trails, void eggs, which will eventually let you get a living ship, all with Quicksilver, and there's only one way to get Quicksilver, and that is by completing Nexus missions. These missions vary and are all fairly simple, and every week there is a new mission, so if you want anything that costs Quicksilver, take part in these Nexus missions. Fairly simple really. There are also two more NPCs who should interest you on the Anomaly, and these are Nada and Polo. You can get the locations to Atlas stations, black holes, along with other rewards like blueprints by talking to these guys, so it's worth having a chat with them. They also play a big part in No Man's Sky story mode, and more on that in just a minute. So, all those things along with the egg sequencer where you can manipulate creatures' eggs is a brief overview of the Anomaly, and I would highly recommend you spend some time on the Anomaly, just have an explore, and you may find yourself being given all sorts of random stuff from other players as they're doing duplication glitches. Sometimes you could get really valuable things like Starship AA valves or void eggs, or some of it could just be generic cheap resources like Ferrite Dust. Right, so let's pop back on out into space, and you will no doubt see a boatload of asteroids up and about in space, and it is important you don't just ignore these. In fact, you want to shoot them, a lot of them, because it will give you a whole load of fairly valuable resources. You can get silver, gold, platinum and Trillium from shooting asteroids, which is used for fueling your pulse engine and selling on the space station, so it's definitely worth spending some time just going around shooting asteroids. There is also another rare item you could get from shooting asteroids, and that is anomaly detectors. Now, these are great resources that you can use just the once, and when you do use it, it's going to take you to a space anomaly, which could vary. You could get super rare resources from these anomalies by shooting them, and they could also be used for finding the new living frigates, which were added in the Endurance update just last year. So spend some time shooting asteroids for these as well. So early on you want to make the most of the space station missions given to you by the NPCs. These can have some fairly lucrative rewards when you're new to the game, like a whole bunch of nanites, units, rare resources, as well as increasing your standing with various alien races. You can stack these missions as well, meaning you're going to hand in multiple missions at the same time for yet more rewards. They are very easy to rack up a few thousand nanites, a few 100,000 units, or get yourself a variety of rare and valuable resources, so make sure you visit each mission giver on each of the space stations. Right, next let's talk about portals and portal glyphs. Every system in No Man's Sky has its own unique address, might even be every planet, and these addresses are made up of 16 portal glyphs. But gathering all 16 of these portal glyphs is actually surprisingly easy and can be done very quickly now, just in a matter of minutes. Now to do that, take a look at the video that I recently posted showing you that exact method, and take a look at how to find portals, because that doesn't take long either. But why are these useful? Well, if you use Reddit, there are dedicated subreddits like the one called our NMS Coordinate Exchange, where other No Man's Sky players upload their discoveries and the coordinates of them to super rare items like exotic ships, S-class multi-tools, paradise planets, insane player created bases and more. How do you think I managed to get these super rare ships and visit some of the most epic bases in the universe? So follow my portal and portal glyph guides and then visit Coordinate Exchange on Reddit. You won't regret it one bit. Right, let's talk about freighters. These are some of the most expensive things you can buy in No Man's Sky, but what you probably didn't know is that when you're new to the game, you can get your first freighter without spending a single penny. Nope, once you've warped a few times or played a certain amount of hours and then warped to a new system, you are going to come across a space battle. And then if you win said space battle, you'll then be invited onto the capital freighter by the captain where, assuming you haven't already got a freighter of course, you'll be given the opportunity to take the freighter for free. Now, the main tip here is don't always take the first freighter you come across, unless it's an S-Class one of course, because you will get this opportunity again after a few more warps and a few more hours of gameplay, so you could come across an even better freighter. You can just take the payment until you find the freighter you really want. And finally, as you're new to the game, you want to make sure that you follow the story missions. These will teach you all of the basics of the game, some things even I forget after putting hundreds and hundreds of hours into No Man's Sky, so it's definitely worth completing it. It will take you time, but you'll be very well set up to do absolutely everything the game has to offer once you're done. And with that said, there are a whole bunch of beginner tips for when you're getting started in No Man's Sky in 2023. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons whilst you're here. I will be doing more No Man's Sky videos in the future covering all aspects of the game, and you don't want to miss out on those, right? And as always, thank you for watching and catch you next time.